Hi guys, welcome back. So today I am honored to have Mint Faery joining me, and you can find her on Instagram, on Etsy, and on YouTube. So thank you so much for coming and talking to me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great.
And just in case people don't know you, and I'm sure they do at this point, but would you like to just tell us a little bit about yourself to start?
Sure. So I am Mint Siegel, also known as Mint Faery on all social media. I am a practicing pagan. I've been practicing magic for about, I don't know why I always have to think about the number because I forget every year that I get older. I feel like it's been 26 years now. Yeah, it's been about 26 years now that I've been practicing. I've practiced a very eclectic form of witchcraft, and it's very much passed down from my family of different traditions and things of that nature. And I like to call myself a fairy godmother because my goal always is to just help people to realize the magic within themselves and just to be happy and joyous and to find the most wonderful life they can on this earth. That's my main goal.
Oh, that's awesome. And I know, like, on your platforms, you talk about there's a lot of sort of guided meditations, which I thought was really interesting, and that's why we're going to be talking a little bit about self-love and self-care and some different energies around that today. So what are some of the best ways, do you think, for if someone came to you and they were saying, I'm struggling in the energies right now, it's really difficult for me to get any kind of self-care, because obviously there's a lot of anxiety in the world right now, there's a lot of death in the world right now, and I don't know how to sort of align myself into this energy of self-care. What would you say to them? Like, do you think would help them?
I think that focusing on what your goals are in life as a person are really important. So not just about like career goals or relationship goals, things of that nature. To me, focusing on your moral goals, what kind of impact you want to have on the world, and what kind of person you want to be seen as, those things are really important to me when it comes to self-care, because that's how you're going to take care of yourself in a way that you want to build yourself up so that you can be that person that you want to be. So I know it is really, really difficult right now for people to find a sort of balance in this climate. It is wild. There's all kinds of revolutions going on. There's illness everywhere, and it's just a really troubling time for sure. So I think that trying to balance yourself and try to spend time alone with yourself and assess your own emotions and just kind of write things down, see how you're feeling, check in with yourself every once in a while, and just take some alone, quiet time. I think is super duper important, because we are always being bombarded with news from, just social media, from actual television news, from different people talking to us, your husband, your wife, your cousin, your mom. Everyone is just spouting different information at you. And I think it's super important for you to just kind of come into yourself, into your own little self cave, and see how you're doing, see how you're feeling, explore things for yourself, get information for yourself, and just really just be present with yourself instead of just being present with everything else, like all these other avenues that are coming at you with information. I think it's really, really important to just be present with yourself.
Oh, Kitty.
I know.
Hi. My Daisy's downstairs because it's too warm up here for her, so she's gone and hidden down in the cooler depths. But yeah.
Oh. Yeah, Merlin is like my sidekick. He's always here, always next to me. He's got to be in my face all the time. He's a snuggle bug.
Oh, he's adorable. So,
what was that?
Really strange noises outside the window.
Wow.
I may just leave that in. That's really weird.
That was super bizarre. Dragon.
Well, I suppose laughter is a good form of self-care, I suppose.
It's my favorite for sure.
Yeah, trying to find the moments of joy in life and trying to bring in spiritual practice. So what are some of the good ways do you think people can practice sort of like either magic or spiritual that can really help them get into this idea of what self-love is?
So I did a self-love ritual for Valentine's Day, I think 2 years ago on my YouTube channel. And I think it's something that I do very often for myself. And that is just writing down things that you are proud of, writing down things that you've done that make you feel happy, that make you feel good, that make you want to do more good things for yourself. Remembering compliments that people gave you that were really, that stood out a lot in your mind. Remembering just anything nice that someone said to you that made you feel like you were doing the right thing, like your heart was full and whole. And keeping a little journal of those things, I think, is super duper wonderful for your own self-care, because when you're feeling super low and you don't know what direction your mind is going in, it's nice to sit down and read those nice compliments and those nice goals that you had that you achieved and all of those things, to build your confidence back up and to build your self-worth back up, and to make yourself feel like, you know, you are doing things, you are moving forward, you are reaching your goals. And sometimes it just feels like, you know, crappy. Sometimes you just feel crappy and you forget how far you've come and all the things that you have accomplished. It's really easy to forget those things, especially when you have like small failures or small setbacks in your, you know, your life timeline, and you think, oh man, like I can't do anything right. But you do. You always do things right. There are always these wonderful things that you're doing every day that you're taking for granted. So writing them down so that you can look at them later is super helpful. It's super duper helpful. And I think that adding bits of magic to that can be really nice as well, with like a self-love, self-confidence. Spell candle is really nice to have. I like to burn mine specifically when I'm writing these things down, and just dress them with oils and herbs that are great for promoting self-love, like rose and jasmine, heather, lavender, just anything that feels good and soft and just nurturing to you. And putting those things in your candle and using that aromatherapy as well on your body as an oil, it just really builds a cloud of love around you. And I think it's such a nice way to take care of yourself.
Yeah, there's something really in there as well about this kind of honoring the intuitive and personal things that make you happy in those moments too. So for me personally, for example, I always go for citrus scents when I want to be uplifted. And that might not necessarily be the first thing you get advised by other witches or whomever, but it really speaks to me and it helps uplift me, and the energy really does sort of cleans out any sort of negative energy that's going on. So sometimes it can be like this process of trusting your intuition about what you need for self-care. And I think sometimes that's maybe not put across as well as it could be when we have conversations.
I agree.
Self-care.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think that self-care is so incredibly personal, because you know what makes you feel good. You know what things you like. Like for me, my self-care scent is mint. It's so nice for me. It's just a fresh, comforting smell for me, and that's what I use for most of my self-care items. Like my oils, everything is mint, and it's just something that it makes me feel safe. It makes me feel good, and so I use that a lot. It's really, you're right, it's very much up to your intuition and up to your personal experience what makes you feel good and cared for. And there are things that you know also that you have to do that would definitely take a weight off of you when it comes to self-care, like making doctor's appointments and going to the doctor, knowing that there's something that you need to get checked on, like go get that checked on, because if you're not taking care of that, it's weighing on your mind, it's bringing you down, it's making you worry, it's giving you all these extra things to think about, when you could just take care of yourself and go to the doctor and let the doctor help you with whatever it is. I am such an advocate of going to the doctor if you can. It's so important to me that people get their health checked out, so that they are sure that everything is moving well inside, so that that's one less thing to worry about. Because man, your body it's this crazy machine that we don't always understand. And that's why it's important to go to the doctor and have someone help you to understand it. It's like a lifelong thing that I've always been really positive about, and a lot of people don't think about it as much as I do, like really. And I see a holistic doctor. I do see a holistic doctor. I'm not talking about going and getting medicines and things like that unless you need them, but I think it's really just important to let a doctor help you to care for yourself, because that's their job. They're called a primary practitioner, and it's a family practice, because you go there to, you know, make sure that your body is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, and they can help you with, you know, all kinds of health goals and things of that nature. I'm all about going to the doctor. As you can tell, I'm like going on a rant about it, but I think it's just really important to know what's going on inside your body, you know, because like I said, it's one less thing to worry about when you have so many other things to worry about in your daily life, you know.
I was talking to the Bronx Witch last week about how the body can physically manifest that stress into our lives, and I think that's probably true with, as an indicator of what we need to do to take care of ourselves on all levels, that the body probably does indicate where we're maybe lacking in terms of self-care and things. There's whole schools of thought which can sort of like, certain areas of the body then sort of represent different areas. So if your back's hurting, you need more support, things like that. So what would you recommend, other than going to the doctor, if people and obviously people go to the doctor if you need to go to the doctor. Like, spiritual care is a balance with medicine. And you can balance, you know, your holistic therapies and your spiritual therapies and whatever else you need. There's no shame in going to the doctor. There isn't. If you need it, please do. But yeah, what are some of the other things you think that the body might sort of indicate might be needing self-care to you in your experience?
In my experience, a lot of the time, the easiest ways for me to tell myself that I'm needing some self-care time is by my mood. I am a mood swing person, and if I feel like I'm getting very like heated, if I'm getting angry too quickly, or if I'm frustrated, or if I'm like crying, you know, just kind of out of nowhere, I know that I need to spend some time working out different emotions or different events that have happened that I haven't processed all the way, or different things in life that I'm not working on physically. They'll definitely manifest in my emotional state. So I'll you know, say I am backed up with work and I'm like frustrated about that, and then I start to just like feel angry and my body gets really tense. I can feel my shoulders tightening up and my trapezoids are tightening up. And I know that's because I am frustrated and I need to release all of the frustration and just prioritize things a little bit better, and then work on something in a different way. Time management is something that is super important to me, and I know that I'm getting close on time if I'm like running out of time, because my shoulders will just start to go up higher and higher and higher. And look in the mirror and I see my shoulders are up here. I know that I need to relax myself, take a moment, prioritize everything that I have to do, calm myself down, and take care of it, you know, one by one, before I just, you know, have an emotional breakdown and cry because because my workload is too much. But that's definitely something that I notice about myself, and I notice about a lot of other people as well, is that when they're frustrated with themselves and things that they feel like they're not taken care of in a certain way, they start to project that frustration onto other people when they don't feel like they're taking care of things the way they should as well. So projecting is something that I definitely notice a lot in just everyday life. That is an indication of you needing to just kind of step back, check out what's going on within yourself, maybe take care of some things that are bothering you, and then you'll have a completely different outlook on everything else in the world. Absolutely. And crying. Yeah, if I'm just crying about random things, I know I probably need to go ahead and release a lot of emotions, because sometimes I'll cry at a commercial, you know, that's not even sad, like a lawn commercial, you know, the lawn will look beautiful and I'll cry. And I'm like, why am I crying about that lawn? You know, because I probably have a lot built up that needs to be released. So I need to go and have some time alone just to go ahead and get some crying out. No big deal. You know, everybody has to cry. There's some things that we just keep bottled up. Gotta let that out before it overflows, you know, during a lawn commercial. So things like that I think are really important, just to pay attention to what's going on. Sometimes it's hormones, and sometimes it's you really needing to have a good heavy release, you know.
For me, I found that recently I went to a small red tent circle with some women, and it was around solstice. And that change of space and change of energy really allowed me to release some of the things that I've been carrying and been carrying for maybe too long. And sometimes I find that sometimes we just need to sort of get out of our own head, and that can be really difficult to do right now because of the lockdown and what's going on in the world in general. We can get very social media heavy right now because that's how we're connecting with a lot of people. It's kind of been both a lifeline that we can still talk and communicate to people, but it's also being sort of switched on a lot more than maybe we would be otherwise. And I think it's a weird path to almost navigate right now, because you want to be talking to people and connecting with people, and then you really need to unplug from it. And as as someone with a social media presence, presumably you know all about that anyway. So
it gets wild sometimes. It definitely, you want to be there for people, and you want to continue to spread information and to do what you can to use your platform to make a positive change in the world. You definitely want to, but you have to also take a step back from that, because people will continue to draw from you the more you give, and then you're depleting your own resources. So you definitely have to, build some boundaries with people and with different platforms as well, not just people, just with like social media platforms in general. You have to say, okay, signing off of this because this is not doing anything positive for me. Let me move on. And you have to really discipline yourself with that. Sometimes you just have to say, nope, I'm done with this. I have to move on. Or no, let me just turn off my phone and listen to an audiobook and just crochet for a little bit and bring your sanity back up to, your focus. Because it is, like you said, it's very easy to stay, tapped in and to stay, plugged into what's going on all the time. And you're also letting in all these other little things that you don't really need to carry at that moment, So it is really important to tap out and to just unplug for a bit and just be yourself for a while,
There is also the thing with people getting a lot of access to us as well. And I think sometimes we can need self-care because of that, because of what you said about the energy of, constantly taking. Sometimes we do need that distance, or sometimes I get to cleanse my electric devices as well. So make it into a small ritual, because these are just, them more or less portals that we're inviting people's energies through into our space. So it does us good, I think, to be aware that self-care also sometimes doesn't look how we think it's going to. Sometimes it's turning your phone off, or having a mini ritual and just cleansing the computer, or something like that. And it can be good to sort of shift your perspective about what you think self-care can be and what self-love is. I was thinking recently about different kinds of self-care and self-love, and what that looks like from different energies, because when a lot of people talk about self-love, it kind of it's the good emotions, because obviously we want to feel good emotions, quote unquote, air quoting. And I was really sort of playing with the idea that sometimes anger is self-care, because when people keep crossing your boundaries, or when people come at you with some ugly, hateful remarks, and what's happening in the world right now, sometimes anger is an expression of self-love, to say, this is not okay, I do not accept this, and I like getting angry about it. And there's a lot of conversations that they try and steer away from that a little bit, like, oh well, you want to be peaceful and balanced and things, but to me it's like sometimes you do need to be angry, sometimes you do need to express that.
I 100% agree with that. Absolutely. There is definitely a time to tap into that passionate and angry energy, to sometimes make yourself and your feelings be known, for sure, because there are some people who will take your peacefulness and your passiveness as you like bowing down, or you just being, easy to manipulate. And you don't always have to, show them with anger, but sometimes you your anger makes a big impression on people. It makes them understand, like, oh, this person actually does feel very strongly about this. Like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. And especially when you said when someone's pushing your boundaries, overstepping their boundaries, or treating you poorly, and just like, you know, sweeping your emotions or your feelings or your life under the rug, and your passion and your anger is something that you can wield, something that you can use as your sign, as your weapon. Like, nope, I'm not taking this. You know, we're not taking this anymore. We're taking, you know, a stand at this point. I'm taking a stand. This is my choice. This is my whatever. This is something that I am very strongly feeling. And so you're going to understand it in this way. And I definitely agree with that. I think that your anger is something very powerful that can be used very productively in certain situations, for sure.
I mean, as with all emotions, obviously, it doesn't do to dwell on it over long, because all emotions can poison us, I think, if we become fixated. Anger is obviously one that can easily fixate. We have to release it. And I think that can be a real part of self-love, is to acknowledge the emotion, like anger, to sit with it, figure out where it's coming from. It may be fairly obvious. If somebody's coming at you frequently and they're pushing you, then you know where the anger is coming from perspective. And then you have to find a way of releasing it, of saying something, or creating a boundary, or having a conversation, or just cutting that situation out of your life if possible, is kind of like that last resort kind of thing. I feel like that balance needs to be maintained with all emotions, because we can't just sit in one emotion and not experience the cycle. Yeah. Cool. So as witches, how can we have conversations, or maybe teach each other about mutual self-love? Because often when it comes to self-love, that can be, as we've mentioned, kind of threatened by when other people are behaving in certain ways, and sometimes they don't necessarily mean it. Like, sometimes somebody's pushing your buttons and they don't fully understand that they're doing that. Like, when people are full on coming for you, that's something else. But, you know, in everyday interactions with people, sometimes wires get crossed, sometimes buttons get pressed. And how can we have that conversation, do you think, as spiritual people?
I think that, okay, so this is a bit of, it can be a bit difficult, because a lot of times when you come at people with different phrases, now that there are so many phrases being thrown around in the spiritual community about self-care and about self-love and about, you know, toxic people, toxic relationships, and like energy vampires and things of that nature, sometimes coming at people with those terms can seem a little like disingenuous, and it just seems a little, like just silly sometimes. Sometimes it just sounds silly. So I think that getting really just down to the basics with people, and just talking to someone just face to face, if you can. Face to face is so important, even in just like a Zoom chat. I think it's super important to be able to understand each other, and to be able to give each person space to say what they need, to say what they mean, so that they're understood, so you can see their expression, you can see what their body language is, so you can see what's going on with someone, and just actually giving someone the time to explain themselves, and you just receiving what they're saying and listening and trying to be understanding and empathetic in each situation is so important. Don't just try to get your point across. Listen to the other person's side, and then also have them listen to your side, and come to a conclusion and come to an understanding in the middle. Because I think that we are very quick to cancel people, or to cut people off, or to decide, well, that person's toxic, I'm not going to talk to them anymore, when you're just having a misunderstanding that can be worked through if you just communicate. You know, communication is just incredibly important in every single aspect of life, and understanding that you have to take the time to receive what the person is saying, as well as give them what you're saying, is very important. So just really being balanced in your approach with talking to somebody else. And when it comes to people in the spiritual community, I think that is just as relevant as it is with people who are not, because we tend to think that we have a lot of things figured out sometimes, you know, because we all have these different spiritual paths, and we've all been taught in a different way, and we believe like, oh, well, my way, you know, it works for me, and so I'm going to do it this way, and then my way works for me, so blah, 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 blah. But meeting in the middle and really just giving each person the space to be themselves and try to understand who that person is in that situation is just very important to me.
Yeah.
Just being understanding and trying to be open your heart, open your mind, and listen, and then actually wait for your turn to go ahead and say how you're feeling, and then just come together in the middle with mutual understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know something that matters a lot to me is the act of people helping to empower themselves. And I think that self-love and these conversations that we talked about, and the act of self-love, as well as some of the magic around it, can really be empowering for people. And I feel like that's a reason why a lot of people flow into witchcraft. They want to feel more empowered. And it's one of the reasons, not the entirety of the reason I think that people come to it, but I think it is a strong one. And so people might be feeling really disempowered right now. What would you advise to them in terms of spiritual work they could do to help themselves feel more empowered?
I think that first, try to understand what it is that's making you feel like you're losing power, at a loss of power. I think that since we're in this great information age, that giving yourself enough time to explore what it is that's making you feel the way that you're feeling, understanding that, and then putting that to work. So say that you are feeling like there's a situation happening in the world that you want to help with, but you feel powerless. You don't know how to help. You don't know how to approach the situation. You don't know how to talk to people about it. And educating yourself on that situation is very important. And then building up your personal power in that respect, as when you're trying to figure out what it is that you can do to help. Say, I want to donate money to this person who, you know, is homeless and they really need a place to live, and I don't have the funds for that, or I don't have the, you know, the ability to do that. So I'm going to build this, you know, some kind of a spell or some kind of a spell candle or something to try to help this person out, to try to bring this person some sort of, you know, relief from their situation. I think that that's something that anyone can do, and anyone can empower themselves to do, as well as, you know, reaching out into the mundane world and seeing what you can do, what resources you can offer to this person, or what resources you can offer to yourself to also build up this other person or the situation that you're trying to help. When it comes to bringing back power to yourself, I think that the most important thing is to understand why you feel like you're powerless, what it is that you feel like you can't do, and find a solution for that. Because there's always something you can do. Like, there are so many people who wanted to protect the protesters. They wanted to have some sort of a ritual to protect the protesters because they felt like they really needed that help. And absolutely, that's absolutely something that anybody can do. There's always some sort of energy exchange that you can provide for someone or for a situation that can help to build up your own personal power, and that can help to, you know, release some of that energy out into the world and to help other people with their situation. There's always something that you can do on an energetic level as well as on a physical level to help somebody. And yeah, like I said, just this, understand that powerlessness is just, it's not real. It's just a little tiny bit of doubt in your mind that turns into a storm cloud, and then you're, you know, wallowing in this rain that you don't have to wallow in. There's always a way to build yourself up and to help other people, and you just have to figure out what it is that you want to do in particular, what you can do in particular to help whatever situation you can, and then you can just go forward with that. Tiny steps, little tiny steps. Protection candle here, a petition there, you know, phone call here, you know, some protection powder there. There's always something that you can do to help any situation. Powerlessness is it's something that you can overcome always.
It can sometimes help to look at who's benefiting you from feeling powerlessness too. Is there something going on in your life where it benefits someone for you to feel feel that
Yes.
rather than you to step into your own power. And that's not to get aggressive with other people or anything like that. It's just to look at those situations and realize that sometimes self-care and self-love is to empower yourself and just shine, just step into that power and do what it is that you are passionate about, that you really want to do, if all those naggy little voices were not there.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah, I wish I could just pew 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 get rid of all those little voices in people's heads, because people are so magnificent. There's so many wonderful things that anyone can do, and I just self-doubt that people like plant into other people's minds. It's just such a poison. It's such a poison. It makes me, it frustrates me so much to see that happening with like parents and children and like people with their lovers and things of that nature. Like it hurts me to see that someone would want to make someone feel that way, that someone would want to make someone feel powerless and to feel like they couldn't achieve any goals, or they couldn't, stand out, or like you said, shine and be who they are. It's just such a poison. And I hope that anyone who's in that situation can see their way out of it and just be themselves and be their bold, beautiful selves, because that's what life is about. It's being a bold, beautiful you,
Yeah, absolutely. So we're about at the end here. So is there anything else you'd like to say to people in these difficult times just before we end?
Well, my biggest thing is to find little bits of joy in your everyday life that will keep you balanced, as we're also finding little bits of sorrow and fear and frustration in life. I know that being at home is difficult for a lot of people. I know that not being able to go out and do all the things that you're used to doing, and to see all of the pain that people in the world are going through, it's really difficult. And we're all fighting it. We're all fighting every day for what we can do, what we believe in, and for what we stand for. But it is also important to balance that out by finding bits of joy, bits of peace in your everyday life, things that make you happy. Like, I'm the first one to say, like, I go through a lot of emails, and I sign lots of petitions and make phone calls and do things all day. I do readings all day. And my happy place when I'm done with all of that and I need to calm down, bring myself back down, is watching Jenna Marbles and eating cereal. And that's like my time when I'm just relaxing and laughing with my bowl of cereal and my dogs in my laps, and just like relaxing and just releasing any of the tension that I had for the day, because stress is really so physically taxing on your body. And that's something that you have to remember every day, that every bit of stress that you're holding inside of your body is creating something that you don't want to be there. So just release all of that. Take tiny moments during the day just to make yourself happy. Do something nice for yourself to balance out everything else that you're going through the day, for sure.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking with me today.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
And for you guys out there, all the links will be down beneath this video if you would like to go check out more. So thank you, and see you soon. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.